Well, thank you for joining and thank you for your time and interest and support. I think this is such an interesting moment for all of us to get connected and get to know each other and learn about traditional cultures and traditional meals. And this is the project which is called Cooking for Peace. And we had an hour ago, Gulnoza and Humam Rano talking about Uzbek traditional meal, plov. And this is our second session. And we're trying to promote and celebrate Asian American cultures, their traditional knowledge, cuisine, and diversity in North Carolina and the United States. Rushana, I think this is the perfect timing for you to start and share your knowledge and traditions with us, especially when it's raining that hard. I think Zur Belish, the Tatar pie would be a perfect piece to have right now.
Okay, well, hi again. My name is Rushana. I am from Russia. I grew up in a little town in the southwest of Russia, and I'll show you in the map just in a second. I came to the United States in 2010, and I met my husband here, so I kind of had to go with him, and stay with him here in the United States. We have a 3-year-old son. His name is Abraham, and he was the one who I was teaching him yesterday how to cook this traditional dish, and you'll see him in the video. And actually, he's here. Do you want to come and say hi? Say hi.
Hello.
And let me just share my screen. So this little red part of the Russia, it's called Republic of Bashkortostan. And there is like a little town with probably 10,000 people in it. It's called Buzyak. That's where I grew up. And so most of the people who live there, they're Tatars. Sorry about that.
I want you to open it.
You go to Nana, okay? Sorry about that, guys. So Tatars are the biggest minority group in Russia. And let me see if I can show you pictures of Tatars. And I want to tell you a couple of words about them. So here they are I think in 18th century. They have their national costumes right here, and here's the nowadays. So it's very interesting how they dressed. So the Tatar language belongs to the Turkic branch of the Uralo-Altaic language family, and Tatars are descendants of the Golden Boar, the Turkic tribes led by the Mongols that subjugated Russia from 13th century. So the main religion of Tatar people is Islam, the culture and traditions of the Tatar people are connected with both religion and secular life. So, for example, we celebrate Ramadan, it's the month of fasting. Sabantui, it's called. Sabantui is the summer festival. It celebrates the end of the spring agricultural work. Also, we celebrate International Women's Day, New Year's, Victory Day, and others. The traditional Tatar cuisine is based on the dal dishes with various stuffing and toppings. And one of the main Tatar dish is Zur Belish. It's big potato pie. Let's go. It's right here, if you can see it. We also have Zur Belish pies, and they're the little ones right here. Zur Belish, it means like small potato pies and meat pies. And I was trying to find the history of when they start making these dishes and how it happened. And I unfortunately couldn't find any information about that, and my parents don't know. But I have my own theory. I think the Zur Belish, these little ones, they Tatar people started cooking them first because it looked delicious. And I think one day in one family, in one big family, it was like a mom who was really tired, and she was like, she had like 13 kids and full-time job and had to take care of the animals, and there's some guests coming, and she's like, oh, instead of making these little ones, let me just make the big one because it's going to take less time. So that's my theory, but I'm not sure how correct it is. And so let me see if I missed anything. I'm trying to teach my 3-year-old son about our Tatar dishes and traditions. It's a little bit challenging to do, but we went to Russia this summer, and I think it had a big influence on him, and he really enjoyed Tatar food and Tatar culture. So now I would like to show you the video of how we're making this pie. We made it yesterday. So here's the all ingredients. So we have 2 eggs, about 3 cups of the flour, 1 stick of butter, some salt, probably 1 teaspoon, and 2/3 of the cup of the milk. So that's all we need for the dough.
So Abraham, what are we making? We're making a big potato pie. The one that Nanaik and Tateka makes in Russia. Okay?
Which one?
It's just a big one that usually Nanaik and Tateka makes.
Nanaik and Tateka are his grandparents, my mom and dad.
It's really, really yummy.
Cheese pie?
It's not a cheese pie, it's a potato pie.
What's a potato pie?
It has some potatoes and onions and carrots.
And does it have any chocolate on it?
Any chocolate on it? No, it doesn't.
Does it have any popsicles on it?
No popsicles on it. All right, you ready to pour this milk?
Yeah.
So we need 2/3 cup of the milk, warm milk. Then we need some salt, 1 teaspoon of salt. And you can go ahead and mix it.
What about pour the flour?
Not yet. And then we need 2 eggs. We're making a dough for the big potato pie. Can I help you with that?
No, I don't need any.
Yes. Let me see this.
I don't care if I crack. I don't care if I crack the egg by myself.
Yeah, it's okay.
I don't care if I pour it by myself.
Yeah. Ooh, okay. Usually do it on the side of it. So then we need some butter. It's 110 grams.
So it's a 1 stick of butter.
Why don't you just leave the whole thing? Well, why does it have some butter too?
It makes it really, really good.
What is that?
What is it? It's flour. We need 2 to 3 cups of flour. And where else you want the dough?
Well, don't give it three spoons of it.
We put just a little bit first, okay? And then I mix it.
And then I'm gonna need one more or two more.
2 more cups? Yeah, probably. Where's your listening ears? Where's your listening ears? Okay. So we make this pie, this potato pie, and we invite some of our relatives, or we have big holidays, and it's the main dish. Has been the main dish for centuries in Tatar culture. What shape is that dog? The heart, it means love. Mhm.
So when the dough is ready, you just put it in a warm place for about 30 minutes. And this is the ingredients for the stuffing. So I would say it's like probably like 6 medium-sized potatoes, 1 onion, a couple of carrots, some stew meat, like a beef stew meat, or you can use lamb. Then a little bit salt, pepper, and oregano is optional.
If we even put all of it there. So we're going to all the potatoes. Now, all the carrots.
Is there some salt in them?
No,
No, it's this. No, the rest.
carrots. Okay. Are you done eating carrots? Okay. And some onions. Probably you don't want to do some salt. Okay. And pepper. We take with some oregano, optional. And meat. No. Now we mix it all together. Some coffee, okay?
So then we take 2/3 of the dough and make a big circle using the rolling pin. And we can use like a regular size frying pan, and you just cover it with that dough.
No.
So we're going to put just a little bit of broth.
And then you put the stuffing in, and as I said, you can put a little bit of the beef broth as well, probably like a half of the top or 2/3 of the top, and some butter.
It's going to be very tasty. And also going to put a little bit of butter.
no more fish left. No, there's 2 more fish left, and that's all.
What are you doing?
There's no more fish left. Was 1 minute done with 2 more.
Okay. Are you making rocket ships?
Yeah.
How does it look like? Good. Okay. So from the center
Yum.
of that ball, we made a circle,
Um.
and then we have
Yum.
glue on top. Place them in it. And then we're gonna attach these 2 pieces right here. Okay. And then, oh, sorry. And then in the middle, we're gonna make a little circle right here. Why are we gonna make a little hole? This. So we can check in about an hour and see if it's ready or not. Usually it takes about 90 minutes or 2 hours. So to cook, to bake. So when you attach 2 layers, you might have an extra dough, and you can always use a knife to cut it, make it pretty. If you cut the part, you can just do this little finger movements. For the leftover dough, you just make a little ball and put it right on top. So in an hour and a half, you can check if the meat and potatoes is cooked. And you put it in the oven, Zur Belish at 300 degrees, right in the middle.
You guys have any questions?
Yes, we have question.
Mhm.
So my mom was wondering if she can put either baking soda or yeast inside the door.
Oh, to make it like rice,
Yes,
make it.
or it's gonna be incorrect.
So for this dish, for the Zur Belish, no, we don't use any yeast. Because then it's yeah, when it's poison. Because we just want the stuffing. The stuffing is the main part of the dish. So the dough is not that important, and we don't want the dough to rise. We just want the meat and potatoes to be cooked.
And then also my mom, we missed actually how much milk we're supposed to put for the proportion.
How much meat?
Milk. No, milk.
Oh, how much milk?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's 2/3 of the cup. Где-то 2/3 стакана.
2-3 стакана. Это сколько миллилитров?
I think it will be.
We just have 1 more banana.
I converted everything to the American system.
Okay. 2-3.
Like 500 grams or milliliters of milk.
And okay, and then the another question at the end. So you made the hole in the middle, and then why did you put the door bowl on the top and close the hole?
Why did I put the dough in the one place? So it will be easier to make a circle of it using the rolling pin.
Mom,
So it's a lot. It makes it a lot easier.
Mama's not. Mama's not there.
All right, Abraham.
And for how long did you put it in the oven?
The pie or just
The pie.
the pie? for about 90 minutes in 350 degrees Fahrenheit.
350.
Yeah, and I'll also share the recipe with all the ingredients and everything with you all. So here's the recipe, and I can always share it with you. So it's the pie crust ingredients and the pie stuffing.
Is there a certain like event that this is cooked for, or is it like more of like an everyday common thing for you to eat? Or
No, we usually cook it during the big holidays or the family celebrations like weddings or when there is someone's birthday and also like religious holidays like the end of Ramadan or another religious holiday. Or we have a special guest coming into the house. I know that during the wedding, I think the parents of the both sides from like brides and the groom side, they make it together, and it depends, and it all depends how it's gonna look. It will represent how their life and their marriage will be. And also like seems to me that all of Tatar traditional dishes, they contain mostly potatoes and meat, mostly like fatty meat too. Like you can make it with you can make this big potato pie with like with the geese meat or lamb or duck meat, and the fatter it's like it's the tastier. It's a very high caloric dish.
This isn't so much a question, but I just love tomato pie, and I'm definitely just took a screenshot of this so I can try to make it because I love tomato pie.
Yeah, you can always like improvise as well. If you have any vegetables that you're not using, you can also like put in there. I wouldn't suggest with broccoli, but like carrots and maybe some peppers. And what else you can put in there? You can even put like a cabbage there too. A little bit of cabbage if you're gonna slice up.
All right, maybe I can ask. Rushana, could you please tell me who taught you to make these pies and like meals and anything about Tatarstan, like in terms of like how many people live in Tatarstan? Yes.
Yeah, sure. So the who taught me this big dish, this big potato pie, is my mom, and it's like I think I was like 5 or 6 years old, and I have two older brothers, and I was the one always the one who was like peeling potatoes in the family. That was my like everyday job, and she would tell me like while we were doing it, because it's so much easier when you cook with your family, with a family member or somebody else is helping you out. She would tell me about her family, about my grandparents, where did they work, about the war. So it's like, well, it was really joyful moments. So, and I remember them. It was really nice spending of the time together. And as far as Tatars in Russia, so we have probably the biggest states where Tatars live. It's the state of Tatarstan and the state of Bashkortostan. I'm not sure what's the population, but most of the Tatars live there, and the main religion is Islam. Because I always get this question or like a confusion when I tell people that I'm Muslim, that they're like, oh, I thought like, in Russia there is no Muslims. I'm like, no, we actually make about 18% of the whole population. So it's the second place between the religions in Russia. Yeah, and we do have our own holidays and celebrations, and Tatar people are very friendly. They like inviting guests. They like playing music and dance. it's yeah, they like having fun too.
I have a question. I wanted to know, what is your favorite dish to make, and then after, what is your favorite dessert to eat after you eat your favorite dish?
There is a traditional dish. It's called chak chak. It's just like a little balls of the dough, but you also put them in some honey, and it's very sweet, and you usually have it with the tea afterwards, with the hot tea. Tatar people love drinking hot tea.
I think at some point in our college, we should have like a day when we celebrate food and cultures. Rushana, could you please tell me a little bit of history? I know from my friends that, and I know in former Soviet Union, Stalin asked people, not asked really, but forced people to move from one place to another. And it was the case also with Tatars and other people. Do you have you heard from your relatives or friends the stories of displacement and how they moved to other places, where they settled? How was the experience?
So I know that my grandparents or grandparents never experienced that. I wonder why though, because well, I guess my grandfather from my father's side, he was the principal of the school, and he was like a big atheist, and I guess that's why they just left him alone. I know that my grandfather was in the World War I, and he had a couple of tough years before coming home from the war. From my mom's side, they were never moved to any other places, but I think if you look at the history in USSR, and yes, you can see that the tendency that they will just move all minority to one place, and I guess that's why we have majority of Tatar people and Bashkir people are in the main states like Bashkortostan and Tatarstan.
I have a question. I was wondering what it was like for you to come here after integrating. I'm sure that must have been a big change.
Well, yeah, absolutely. So I came with the program, work and travel program in 2010, and I met my husband. He was working with me at Subway restaurant. We were making sandwiches together. So yeah, it was a big adjustment, especially like trying to find some food or like cook something that you usually cooked at home, and but at the same time, I just learned so much and so many different cuisines. Like I still remember that I never had any bagel with cream cheese before and a cup of coffee, and it was so so huge for me. Yeah, so that's and then like yeah, and Japanese food is so good, Chinese. So I developed all these different tastes, and time to time, and just go to Chipotle or any other restaurants, because it's amazing how many different nationalities we have here in America.
I also have a question. Are there like any specific ingredients that you've had difficulty finding that you want to like of your traditional cuisine from your culture? And like if there has been, like what have you used as substitute ingredients?
So I think mostly probably like it's hard to find like buckwheat or different types of rice. So usually I go to Gmart, but I'm now kind of like familiar with the places where I can get them. And then like Tatar sweet like desserts, like cookies. Of course, I miss them. But whenever I go home, I just feel so much gratitude and appreciation that I can actually enjoy those meals with my family and those desserts. Yeah.
I tried this pie a long time ago when I was a child and going to a school, and my sister's friend was Tatar, and they invited us to their place, and the pie was so delicious, and I remember the taste of it so well. And they were displaced, they were Crimean Tatars. Rushana, maybe if you tell about the difference between, like, I think there are different types of, right? Like there are Crimean Tatars. I don't know if there are any other Tatars, but I remember my dad would be telling the stories how like people during Stalin times were put into trains at night. So no one will see how they're displaced from one country to another. And that's how they arrived to Central Asia at night. And in that family, they had a grandma, and the only dream that grandma had was to go back to Crimea. And I have some friends who traveled back to Crimea and resettled. I think there was a program for that, like initiated by the government for the resettlement, and the entire resettlement was extremely hard on people. Like you need to start from scratch. You don't have anything. You need to build a house, and like some of the family members got sick, and they did not have proper housing. So I heard that stories from my friend, but if you maybe share a little bit of that. And
as far as I know about Tatar history, and I'm trying to learn more, but yes, there is the different types of Tatars. I know that the one group of Tatars, it's called Volga or Bulgarian Tatars, because they were like near the river Volga. Another type or another group is like Crimean Tatars. Yeah, and there is actually different theories of it's just one of the theories that we actually came from the like Mongol invasion things, but there is also other theories how Tatar immigrated to Russia or to Asia. I've heard of stories, like horrifying stories, when people would just taken somewhere without even knowing, anything about their future. But I'm sorry, I don't know enough, I guess, to talk about it. Maybe that's the next thing that I should learn. I want to share one of the books that I recently bought with you. It's called Zuleika. It's a novel by Guzel Yakhina, and I'll be happy to send you a picture of this. But this book was written not long time ago, and it's about, it actually has some history of Tatar people and Muslim people in Russia, and mostly about how hard it was for a young girl to live during those times, USSR times. And I think, my friend recommended me actually, and I fell in love with this book, and it was criticized a lot in Russia by some other people too. They're saying that these stories are not correct, they just all made up. But it's a great book, and it teaches us to be grateful for, to live now in 21st century, because the story tells about this young girl who was married at the age 15 or 16, and she just had to listen to her husband all the time, and she didn't have any voice or opinion on anything. And it's a great story. It will make you cry and laugh, and you can find it on Amazon.
Yes, it's beautiful book. I recommend too.
That's my friend Irene. I think she joined us. But Irene, do you know more about like different types of Tatar and the origin and how they migrated to Asia?
Oh my God, Rushana, I didn't prepare. Uh, but yeah, it's a lot of type of Tatar. Actually, I just heard about the Crimean Tatar and the Kazan Tatar. It's two different types. Crimean Tatars, they migrate from Turkey, so their language it's different than Tatar language. It's very close to Turkey people. So if you're Tatar, you never will understand Crimean Tatar. Yeah, and yeah, the Crimean men are so amazing, are so handsome. They have black hair and blue eyes.
Well,
So
thank you, Irina, for your contribution.
you're welcome. Sorry, Roshanya, for bothering you. You can keep talking. Sorry.
Sounds so interesting. I'm intrigued to read it.
I have it. I think should be a Russian copy on Amazon too, if you want to read it in original. Yeah, and also it was a movie made, I think last year, in Republic of Tatarstan in Russia. It's called Zuleika is Opening Her Eyes.
So could you please tell a little bit about your childhood? Like, what was your childhood like?
I was growing up in this little town. We had domestic animals, like I think a cow and a couple of chickens, and and I had two older brothers. I have two older brothers, and growing up, I was born in 1988. So growing up, I saw a lot of struggle that my parents had, because they had to take care of their kids, the animals, the garden, and they all had like full-time jobs. There's always, they never had enough of like fruit. Well, we had fruits during the summer, but during the winter we never really had a lot of fruits or vegetables. And it was like a shortages in clothes, in clothing. So that's what I remember. But what great about my childhood is I saw a lot of teamwork, or like neighbors will help each other. There's a lot of trading going on. You give your neighbor some potatoes that you grew in your garden. They will bring you some honey that they got from their bees. So there's always some kind of trading going on. There's always somebody's will come check on you if somebody is sick, or someone's child is sick. There's always somebody will come and bring some food. So it's friendship means a lot in my Tatar village. It's even nowadays when I went there during the summer, there's always neighbors who would bring you some food, which was great. Yeah, and then I moved to a bigger city when I was 18, and I was in pedagogical university. Well, I became a teacher. I did not learn any English before I came to United States. I thought I knew some English, but turns out I didn't. So I had to take a lot of ESL classes when I came to United States, and take GED courses. And so I had to do all these different obstacles before I got my degree in nursing a couple of years ago from UNCG.
Yeah, and did you study in school with Russian language of instruction, or like is a Tatar school? How like the school system was set up, and
I never actually learned Tatar in school. We were the first class that that they said that they will not offer any Tatar language classes. So I just know the basics. I know how to talk to people, to my neighbors and to my parents, but I never learned how to write in Tatar or read in Tatar, which upsets me nowadays. I guess it was the regime that we had political regime that we had those days. Irina, did you ever get a chance to take some Tatar classes? I don't know if my friend is here, but I think she did take a couple of classes. But I still consider myself well, bilingual Russian and Tatar language.
Rushana, could you please tell about farming and the food system? And yeah, like what do people grow?
People grow a lot of vegetables in Russia and potatoes. And there is a whole system how to grow potatoes in Russia. And you usually just go help your neighbor first, and all the neighbors are just going from one territory or area that neighbors have, and or gardening the potatoes, and then they just move to another. So it's just like a community work, basically, and all your relatives coming in and helping you out. The fruits and the berries in my little village, it's just amazes me every time I go there, because there's so many different types of berries. Like and I know that we can't really bring them to United States to share. I know that cherries they taste different there. They're not as sweet. They're mostly like sour in a part of the Russia where I used to live. But I usually bring my husband to Russia, and he's American. He's from Maryland, and I just let him try all these different berries. There's like 5-6 different types during July, and he enjoys it a lot. As far as having like domestic animals, there's always like a cow in every household, because people like to have their own milk and eggs. You always have some chicken.
Yeah, thank you. Brian, Trinity, and Haley, like in the class, we talked about the 1930s when land was taken away from rich people and it was collectivized, collectivizация. And we also spoke about 1990s when Soviet Union collapsed. How was your life, or your parents or relatives' lives, or like life of people in 1930s when land was taken away, then like maybe 1990s when Soviet Union collapsed? Anything that you would recall?
So when I went to Russia this summer, I asked my parents, because I'm really interested in, my heritage and my grandparents and grandparents. We couldn't find any information of like what was happening in 1930s, because my parents were born in 1956. But I think we found like one documentation of how many domestic animals my grandfather had, something like that. And it was I don't know what happened during that time in that small village, but where my grandparents lived, but I couldn't really find any information about that. And like my mom couldn't tell me either. I know that my grandmother, when my grandfather was in participating World War II, she was working as a nurse in a hospital, and basically my grandmother was forced to marry my grandfather because there was like a shortages of men after the World War II. Sorry. So that's what I found out the last time I was there.
Yes, the impact of
this book that I told you about, it actually talks about that those times, about like collectivization, like collecting all the things from people and trying to divide it, or or sending them out to like Siberia or other places.
Rushana is talking about Siberia, and in Siberia there were concentration camps.
That's correct. Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know. Probably still don't know how many people died there.
Yes. So people who were sent to Siberia, I just want to explain a little bit of political context, are the ones who were um, like resisting to colonization by Russians, and people who had critical thinking and mindset, they were sent to concentration camps where they were tortured, and that's where they died. So at that time, many family members lost their loved ones in Soviet Union, and this tragedy had an enormous impact on the lives of people and the trauma. So there is a historical trauma that was caused, but there is not much, I think, that has been done to like explore. I know that there is a Russian author Alexander Solzhenitsyn who wrote a book on it's called Archipelago Gulag, and I remember I read this book when I was in this when I was like a schoolgirl, but certainly you cannot read it in school, but you need to read it by yourself. So, and also the curriculum was in a way that you cannot read something like more critically, maybe explore some critical issues in the history of the country. So you need to read it like outside of your school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there were a lot of books that they were not allowed in schools, including even like Master and Margarita, written by Bulgakov. Yeah, just I'm gonna make a little comment. When I went back to Russia this summer for a month, I saw. I mean, I talked to a lot of people, and a lot of people they don't trust government in there, and for a lot of reasons, and you know we can support them on that, but and I was like, why they're not, and some of them, they don't trust the vaccine, you know, the COVID vaccine. And I was talking to them, and I was really curious what their opinion on that. And they just don't trust government in general. Like, I thought for a second, like, why do they have to trust the government? I mean, we Russian people, or like Tatar people, so many different nationalities in Russia, just have this big history of, you know, being poor or like not having enough food, and then the government changes all the time, these political regimes and all that stuff. So that's why I think we still have that, like people just don't trust the government.
Yeah, yeah. It's so there is a historical legacy of it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. They always think that people in Russia always think that the government is trying to get, like, to take their lost money, or you know, do something else. So yeah, it's sad. It's really sad.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
I had one question. When you were speaking earlier, you said that you were a teacher and a nurse. What like inspired you or led you to do those two professions?
So I was a teacher, but it was not my choice. It's kind of like my parents decided for me to go to the university and get my teaching degree. When I came to United States, I was a caregiver and a nursing assistant, and I just loved it. I loved it, and I decided, let me try to get the nursing degree. And I'm very grateful that I got my degree, and I got it here at UNCG, and I'm working at Cone Health now. It's just I mean, I really enjoy it. I love helping people. I love taking care of people. And I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky that I found something that I love.
Thank you, Rushana, so much for your presentation and this excellent talk. I think you gave such a brilliant overview, not only of food culture, but also helped us to learn like what really happened in Tatarstan and how the life is there in the past and currently. So hope hopefully we'll have like a day when we will all get together and share our traditional meals. I don't know, maybe with
God willing, yes.
Cart or Guilford College. I don't know. We will see how it will evolve. Thank you so much, and for your little one, Abraham, who helped you to make
Sorry,
the
he was
pie.
bothering me so much during this presentation. He's supposed to be upstairs, but he's no, but he did not listen to him. He kept coming.
He's such a great cook. Yeah. Well, thank you, Rushana. And yeah, I appreciate it a lot. And thank you all who joined us. And your questions were excellent. And we look forward to having you in other sessions. And let's cook for peace, unity, and diversity, and celebrate our cultures.